I've been sitting on this bench for over 25 years, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that arrogance is the loudest mask for a lie. When Marcus Stone walked into my courtroom today, he didn't just walk, he swaggered. He's wearing a suit that cost more than the rent he allegedly hasn't paid, a heavy gold watch, and a smirk that tells me he thinks this is all a big joke. He looks like a man who spends more time in front of a mirror than a checkbook. Standing across from him is Mrs. Evelyn Thorne, a 74-year-old widow who looks like she hasn't slept in a month. She's clutching a manila folder like it's her last line of defense, and in my courtroom, it usually is. I don't need to read the file to know the dynamic here. I see it in the way Mr. Stone leans against the podium, looking at his fingernails while Mrs. Thorne tries to find her voice. I see it in the way he rolls his shoulders, trying to intimidate a woman who could be his grandmother. He's picked the wrong day, and he's definitely picked the wrong court. Bird, the parties have been sworn in? I ask, my eyes already fixed on the defendant. Yes, Judge Bird says, standing tall. He's seen that look on my face before, the one that means I'm about to take someone apart like a cheap watch. Mrs. Thorne, I begin, keeping my voice steady. You are suing Mr. Stone for $8,000 in unpaid rent and $4,000 for damages to a property you inherited from your late husband. That's $12,000 total, but you've capped it at the $5,000 jurisdictional limit. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, she says, her voice trembling. It was our retirement home. We were going to move there, but after Arthur passed, I couldn't go back. I rented it to Mr. Stone in good faith. He seemed so professional. I glance at Stone. He lets out a soft, audible huff and shakes his head. Is there something funny, Mr. Stone? I snap. The smirk doesn't disappear, but it wavers. Because I don't see a punchline. I see a woman who is owed money. Do you have a tongue? Use it. I just think good faith is a stretch, Judge, Stone says, his voice dripping with a condescending smoothness. I'm a luxury lifestyle consultant. I have a brand to maintain. I moved into that house, and it was a hovel. I've actually done her a favor by staying there and overseeing the repairs myself. A hovel? I repeat. I open the file and pull out the photos Mrs. Thorne submitted from the listing. It's a beautiful, well-maintained 1920s bungalow with original hardwood floors and a pristine garden. This looks like a lovely home, Mr. Stone. Unless luxury in your world means something entirely different than it does in reality. Did you sign a lease? I did, he says, but the lease is void because the property was uninhabitable. There was mold, the plumbing was ancient, and the HVAC system was a health hazard. I told her I'd pay the rent once the house was up to my standards. Oh, I see, I say, leaning back. So you're the judge, the jury, and the building inspector. You decided that you would live in this hovel for 4 months, free of charge, because it didn't meet your standards? Is that your defense? I spent my own money fixing it up, Stone says, gesturing to his chest. I have a counterclaim for $5,000 for the improvements I made. I put in smart lighting. I repainted the entire interior a custom slate gray, and I had the floors refreshed. I'm not paying rent for a construction zone. Mrs. Thorne, did you authorize these improvements, I ask? No, Your Honor. I told him specifically not to touch the walls. That paint was original. My husband and I spent years restoring those finishes. He sent me an email saying he was elevating the space and then stopped answering my calls. When I finally got inside last month after he moved out, I cried. He'd painted over the mahogany trim with cheap gray latex paint. He'd ripped out the vintage light fixtures and left wires hanging from the ceiling. I look at Stone. He's nodding as if he's proud of himself. The mahogany was dated, Judge. It made the place feel like a tomb. I brought it into the 21st century. Any landlord would be grateful. I'm not any landlord, Mr. Stone, and I'm certainly not grateful for your idiocy, I bark. Bird, give me the lease. Bird hands me the document. I flip to the alterations clause. I've seen thousands of these, and Mr. Stone clearly hasn't read a single one. Clause 12, I read aloud. my voice cutting through his smug silence. No alterations, painting, or structural changes shall be made without the express written consent of the landlord. Any unauthorized changes shall be restored to original condition at the tenant's expense. Do you see your signature at the bottom of this page? Mr. Stone? I signed it, but like I said, the house was... I don't care if the house was a gingerbread cottage or a castle, I scream, slamming the file shut. You don't get to elevate someone else's property without permission. This isn't a reality TV makeover show, you arrogant little man. This is real life. You destroyed original mahogany trim? Do you have any idea what it costs to strip and restore wood like that? It's just wood, Judge. Let's not get emotional. The room goes dead quiet. You could hear a flea cough. Stone is still smiling, thinking he's landed a point. He doesn't realize he's just stepped onto a landmine. Emotional? I whisper. My voice is low, which is much more dangerous than when I'm yelling. You think it's emotional to respect someone's property? You think it's emotional to follow a contract you signed? No, sir. What it is illegal. And what you are is a squatter with a nice watch. I'm not a squatter. I have receipts for the work I did. I want to see those receipts, I say. Bird, bring them here. Let's see how much it costs to ruin a widow's house. As Bird walks the papers over, I watch Stone. He's suddenly very interested in his watch. He's fidgeting. His bravado is starting to leak. I take the papers and start scanning. It takes me exactly 10 seconds to find the first hole in his story. Mr. Stone, this invoice for the smart lighting system. It's from a company called Stone Cold Enterprises. Care to tell me who owns that company? He clears his throat. It's a subsidiary of my consulting firm. I did the work myself to save her money on labor. Save her money? I let out a sharp, mocking laugh. You charged her $2,000 for labor on an invoice you wrote to yourself. You didn't pay a dime to anyone. You bought some light bulbs at a hardware store and billed her for a system installation. You're a fraud, Mr. Stone. You're not a lifestyle consultant. You're a common thief who knows how to use a printer. That's a legitimate business expense, he shouts. It's a lie, I fire back, and it's the tip of the iceberg. Mrs. Thorne, you mentioned you have a video of the property the day you took it back, the day he moved out? Yes, Your Honor. My son filmed it on his phone. I want to see it. Right now, Stone's face goes from smug to pale in a heartbeat. He starts shuffling his papers. I don't think a grainy phone video is relevant, Judge. I have professional photos of the finished elevation. I don't want to see your professional photos that were likely filtered to death on Instagram, I yell. I want to see the truth. Bird, get the screen ready. Mr. Stone, sit down and keep your mouth shut. The consultation is over. Now, the education begins. The screen flickers to life, and suddenly the courtroom is looking at the interior of Mrs. Thorne's house. I've seen some disasters in my time. Hoarders, frat houses, places that look like a bomb went off. This is a different kind of tragedy. It's the tragedy of expensive taste met with absolute incompetence. The video shows the living room. That beautiful mahogany trim Mrs. Thorne talked about, it's been covered in a thick, globby coat of flat gray paint. It looks like someone took a bucket of wet cement and a mop to the walls. You can see the brush strokes. You can see where the paint dripped onto the original hardwood floors and stayed there, drying into ugly, permanent welts. Stop the video right there, I command. Bird pauses the frame. Mr. Stone, look at that. That's your elevation? It looks like the inside of a holding cell. Why on earth would you paint over hardwood trim with flat latex paint without even taping the edges? It's an industrial chic look, Judge Stone says, crossing his arms and looking at the screen like he's an art critic at the Louvre. The drips are intentional. It's about texture. It's about the raw, unfiltered essence of the space. Mrs. Thorne just doesn't have the sophisticated palate to appreciate it. A sophisticated palate? I repeat, my voice rising. Sir, I've seen better paint jobs on a birdhouse built by a 5-year-old. You didn't elevate anything. You vandalized a historic home because you have the ego of a dictator and the skills of a house painter on a bender. And look at those wires hanging from the ceiling. Bird, play the next 10 seconds. The video moves to the dining room, where a vintage crystal chandelier used to be. There is now a gaping hole in the plaster and 3 bare plastic smart bulbs hanging by exposed copper wiring. It's not just ugly, it's a fire hazard. That's smart lighting? I ask, turning my gaze back to Stone. That looks like something out of a horror movie. Did you hire an electrician to do that? I did it myself. I'm very handy. The app works perfectly. I don't care if the app can make the lights dance the Macarena. Mr. Stone, you are not a licensed electrician. You ripped out a valuable fixture and replaced it with a death trap. Mrs. Thorne, do you have an estimate for what it will cost to fix what handy Mr. Stone did here? I do, Your Honor, she says, her voice stronger now that the evidence is on display. I had a contractor and a master carpenter come out to strip the paint off the mahogany, repair the plaster, and rewire the house correctly. The quote is $9,600, and that doesn't even include replacing the chandelier he threw away. I didn't throw it away, Stone scoffs. I repurposed it. It was gaudy. Repurposed it. Where? Into your trunk? Into a pawn shop? I snap. Where is the chandelier, Mr. Stone? It's in storage. I was going to give it back once the consultation period was over. The consultation period? I lean forward, my eyes narrowing. You were a tenant. You paid for the right to live there, not to perform surgery on the building. Now, let's talk about your claim that the house was uninhabitable. You say there was mold? Black mold, Judge, everywhere. I have photos. Show them to me. Bird brings me a stack of glossy 8x 10 photos. I look at the first one. It's a close-up of a corner in the bathroom. I look at the second. It's a windowsill. I look at the third. Then I toss the whole stack onto the bench. Mr. Stone, do you know what I see in these photos? I see dust. I see a little bit of mildew on a shower curtain. I don't see a health hazard. And more importantly, Bird, give me his timeline. You moved in on the 1st of October, correct? Correct. And you didn't mention this deadly mold until the 15th of January, the same day Mrs. Thorne served you with a pay or quit notice for 3 months of back rent. Is that a coincidence? I was trying to be a good tenant. I was trying to fix it myself before complaining. Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. I roar. The gallery jumps. Even Bird looks a bit startled. If you walk into a restaurant and they serve you a steak that is rotten and covered in maggots, you don't sit there, eat the whole thing, order dessert, and then 4 hours later refuse to pay the bill because the steak was bad. If the house was uninhabitable, you move out on October 2nd. You don't stay there for 4 months elevating the trim and installing smart bulbs while you keep your rent money in your pocket. I had a right to stay. It was my home. It was her house, I scream. Your home is wherever you pay the bills. You didn't pay the bills. You sat there like a king in a castle you didn't own, destroying things that didn't belong to you, and now you have the gall to stand here and tell me you're the victim? You're not a victim, Mr. Stone. You're a parasite. I'm a professional. A professional what? A professional liar? A professional decorator for the blind? I pick up the lease again. You owe 4 months of rent at $2,000 a month. That's $8,000. You're being sued for $5,000 because that's all I can give her. But you also have a counterclaim for $5,000 for your labor and materials. Let me tell you what I'm doing with your counterclaim. I pick up his Stone Cold Enterprises invoice. I slow motion rip it in half, then into quarters, and let the pieces flutter onto the floor. Your counterclaim is dismissed with prejudice. It's a fiction. It's a fantasy. It's a pile of garbage. You don't get paid to ruin someone's house. You don't get labor costs for committing a crime against carpentry. Stone's face is a deep, bruised purple now. The lifestyle consultant looks like he's about to have a total meltdown. You can't do that! That's my intellectual property! The design of that room is worth 10 times the rent. The design of that room is worth a trip to the dumpster, I fire back. Mrs. Thorne, did he leave the house voluntarily, or did you have to evict him? He stayed until the very last second of the sheriff's notice, Your Honor, she says. And when he left, he took the kitchen appliances, my stove, my refrigerator. They were brand new. I look at Stone. My heart is pounding with a righteous fury I haven't felt in weeks. You took the appliances? On what grounds? They were security for my labor, he mutters, his eyes darting around the room. Security for your labor? That's called theft, you moron. I slam the gavel down. Bird, call the police. I want a report filed right now. This isn't just a civil case anymore. Taking appliances out of a rental property that don't belong to you is grand larceny. I was going to return them, Stone yells. When? When the sophisticated pallet police told you it was okay? I turned to Mrs. Thorne. Madam, I'm awarding you the full $5,000. It's not enough. It doesn't even cover the paint removal, let alone the appliances or the missing chandelier, but it's every penny I can legally give you. Thank you, Judge, she says, her eyes welling with tears. I just wanted someone to see what he did. I see it. The whole world sees it, I say. I turn my attention back to Stone, who is now trying to gather his papers and flee the podium. Sit down, Mr. Stone. I'm not done with you. You think you're just going to walk out of here and find another victim? You think you're going to elevate another house? I'm leaving, he says, his voice shaking. This is a circus. It's only a circus because you're a clown, I bark. Bird, make sure he doesn't leave the building until the officers arrive to take the report about the appliances. And Mr. Stone, that gold watch you're wearing, I'd suggest you sell it because Mrs. Thorne is going to take this judgment. She's going to garnish your consulting fees, and she's going to hunt you down until every penny of her $8,000 in rent and $9,000 in damages is paid. I'm going to personally make sure she has the resources to take you to the higher court for the rest of the money. Stone looks like he's about to cry. The swagger is gone. The luxury lifestyle has hit a very hard, very gray wall. I have a reputation, he whispers. You certainly do, I say, my voice cold and sharp as a razor. You have the reputation of a man who got caught, and in my courtroom, that's the only reputation that matters. Bard is standing at the exit door, arms crossed, looking like a brick wall in a uniform. Marcus Stone is hovering near the defense table, his eyes darting toward the door and then back to me. He's starting to realize that my courtroom isn't a stage, it's a cage, and the bars are closing in. I have a meeting at 2:00, Stone says, his voice losing its polished edge and becoming shrill. You can't keep me here. I'm a private citizen. You're a defendant in a court of law who just admitted to removing property that doesn't belong to you. I roar. You can have your meeting in the hallway with the officers, or you can have it in the back of a squad car. Choose one and do it quickly, because I'm losing my patience, and when I lose my patience, it costs people money. I turn my attention to a folder Bird just handed me. It's the background check on Stone Cold Enterprises. I flip through the pages, and a slow, cold smile spreads across my face. Mr. Stone, you said your business is a subsidiary of your consulting firm. This report says that Stone Cold Enterprises was suspended by the Secretary of State 3 years ago for failure to pay taxes. It also says you have 3 outstanding judgments against you in other counties, all for, surprise, surprise, unpaid rent and property damage. You're not a lifestyle consultant, Mr. Stone. You're a serial squatter. You move from one house to the next, ruin the interior with your industrial chic garbage, and then bail when the landlord finally realizes you're a deadbeat. Those judgments are under appeal, Stone yells, pointing a shaking finger at the bench. They're from landlords who didn't understand my vision. Your vision involves stealing a refrigerator and a stove? I ask. Mrs. Thorne, let's talk about those appliances. What was the value of the items he took? The stove was $1,800 and the refrigerator was $2,500. Mrs. Thorne says. She's looking at Stone now, not with fear, but with a quiet, burning indignation. He told me he was taking them to be professionally cleaned because of the mold he found. He even showed me a fake work order. A work order? Let me see that. Bird brings me a piece of paper. It's a poorly typed document with the Stone Cold Enterprises logo at the top. It says, Asset Maintenance and Sanity Restoration. Sanity restoration? I look at Stone. The only person whose sanity needs restoring is yours, if you thought I'd believe this. This isn't a work order. It's a confession. You took the appliances to a cleaning facility that doesn't exist. Where are they, Mr. Stone? Are they in your new apartment? Did you sell them on Craigslist to pay for that shiny suit? I don't have to tell you where my assets are. They aren't your assets. They're her property. I scream, the sound echoing off the wood paneling. Bird, call the precinct. Tell them we have a live one. Tell them he's admitting to a scheme to defraud a senior citizen. And while you're at it, ask them to check the GPS on that elite truck. He's probably got parked in the lot. I don't have a truck. I have a Range Rover, Stone spits out, as if the brand of his car makes him less of a criminal. Oh, a Range Rover. Well, isn't that lovely? I hope the seats are comfortable because you're going to be sleeping in the back of it if you don't start telling the truth, I say. I lean forward, lowering my voice to that sharp, clinical tone that stops people's hearts. Mr. Stone, I'm going to give you one chance. One, where is the chandelier? Where are the letters? Where is this woman's property? He looks at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The lifestyle consultant is gone. The industrial chic artist is gone. There's just a scared, small man who realized his brand doesn't mean a lick of anything in a room where the truth is the only currency. The chandelier is in a storage unit in Queens, he mutters, so quietly I can barely hear him. Speak up. I'm an old lady. I don't hear as well as I used to. It's in storage, he yells. I have the key. I'll give it back. And the appliances? I sold the stove. I needed the cash for the security deposit on my new place, but I still have the fridge. It's in my kitchen. The courtroom is silent. Mrs. Thorne lets out a small, choked gasp. I feel the blood rushing to my face. I've seen some cold-blooded things on this bench, but the sheer, casual way this man admitted to stealing a widow's stove to pay for his next scam, it's nauseating. You sold her stove, I say, my voice trembling with a controlled, icy rage. You took a woman's ability to cook a meal in her own home, sold it for parts, and used the money to find your next victim. Do you have any soul at all, Mr. Stone? Does anything inside you feel a shred of shame? I was in a bind. The economy is tough for independent creators. The economy isn't tough on people who work for a living. It's tough on people who think they're too good to work. I bark. You're an independent creator? What did you create? You created a disaster. You created a mountain of debt. You created a criminal record for yourself that's going to follow you until the day you die. I turn back to my notes, my pen scratching across the paper so hard I nearly rip it. Here is what we're going to do. I've already awarded the $5,000. That's for the rent and a fraction of the damages. But since you've admitted to the theft of the stove, an item worth $1,800, and the illegal possession of the refrigerator and the chandelier, I am doubling down. I'm issuing a court order for the immediate return of the refrigerator and the chandelier. Bird, you're going to escort him to that storage unit and then to his apartment. If he doesn't produce every single item in the same condition it was taken, he's going directly to jail for contempt. You can't do that. I have rights to privacy. Stone screams. You lost your right to privacy when you started stealing. I fire back. And as for the $1,800 for the stove you sold, I'm adding that as a separate judgment for conversion. Mrs. Thorne, you take that judgment to the marshal. If he has a Range Rover, they'll put a boot on it. If he has a bank account, they'll freeze it. And if he tries to sell so much as a smart light bulb, they'll be waiting for him. I look at the gallery. People are shaking their heads. This man came in here thinking he was the smartest person in the room, and he's leaving with nothing but a debt and a date with a detective. Mr. Stone, I say, my voice calm now, which is the scariest part. You thought you could walk over this woman because she was dated. You thought her husband's legacy was just wood and old things. Well, let me tell you something. Character doesn't go out of style. Honesty isn't dated. And the law? The law is very, very sophisticated when it comes to people like you. I look at Mrs. Thorne. Madam, I am so sorry. I know the money won't fix the memories you had in that house. I know it won't unpaint that mahogany. But I hope that seeing this man exposed for exactly what he is gives you some small measure of peace. It does, Your Honor, she says, wiping her eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank the fact that you kept your records. Thank the fact that you didn't let him bully you into silence. I turn my gaze back to Stone, who is now being handcuffed by Bird. His luxury life is over. Get him out of my sight. He makes the air in here feel dirty. Bird leads him out. Stone is still shouting about his brand, but nobody is listening. The only thing people see is a thief in a suit. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000 plus the $1,800 for the conversion of the stove. Orders for return of property issued. We are done. I slam the gavel down. The sound is like a thunderclap, clearing the air of all the nonsense Stone brought into the room. I take a sip of water, my hands steady, my mind already moving to the next case. Because as long as there are people who think they can elevate their lives by stepping on others, I'll be here to knock them back down to earth. Next case, I bark, and I hope it's someone with a lick of common sense. Stone is still shouting as Bird hauls him toward the side door. This is a violation of my civil rights. You're seizing my property without a warrant. It's not your property, you numbskull. It's hers. I scream after him, my voice echoing off the high ceilings. And the warrant is my signature on that order. If you don't like it, tell it to the appellate court, though I suspect they'll laugh even harder at you than I am. I turn back to the bench and take a deep breath, trying to let the adrenaline subside. But I'm not finished with the record. I want every single detail of this man's fraud documented so that when the district attorney gets the file, it's a slam dunk. Mrs. Thorne, I say, leaning forward and lowering my voice. You mentioned earlier that he sent you an email about elevating the space. Do you have that printed out? I do, Your Honor, she says, pulling a few pages from her folder. It's right here. He sent it after I told him for the third time not to paint. He said I was stifling his creative flow and that the house would be worth double once he was finished. I take the papers from Bird. I read the first paragraph, and I can feel my eyes wanting to roll out of my head. It's written in that pseudo-intellectual corporate speak that people use when they have absolutely nothing of substance to say. Words like synergy, aesthetic disruption, and transformative spatial dynamics. Mr. Stone, I call out, even though he's halfway out the door. Listen to this. You wrote, and I quote, "The mahogany serves as a colonial anchor that drags down the vibration of the living area. By neutralizing it with a slate-toned industrial wash, we invite the light to participate in the architecture." Tell me, mister, Stone, did the light participate in the architecture while the rain was coming through the hole you left in the ceiling for your smart bulbs? He stops, looking back with a face full of indignant fury. You don't understand the philosophy of design. I understand the philosophy of theft. I bark. Bird, get him out of here. He's polluting the oxygen. Once the door finally clicks shut, the courtroom feels 10 pounds lighter. I look at Mrs. Thorne. She's still standing there, looking a bit dazed by the whirlwind she's been caught in. Madam, sit down for a moment, I say, my voice softening. I want to talk about the chandelier. You said it was vintage crystal? It was a gift from my husband's parents when we bought the house in 1974. She says, her voice thick with emotion. It had over 200 hand-cut Austrian crystals. It took me a whole day every spring to clean it, one crystal at a time. It was the heart of the dining room. And he called it gaudy, I mutter. A man who thinks flat gray paint on mahogany is chic, called an heirloom gaudy. That's the problem with people like Marcus Stone. They have no roots, so they think everyone else's roots are just weeds to be pulled up. They don't value history because they don't have any character themselves. I look at the secondary photos of the dining room again. The gaping hole where that chandelier hung is like a wound in the house. Mrs. Thorne, I want you to understand that the $5,000 I'm awarding you for the rent and damages is just the beginning. The $1,800 for the stove is a separate judgment for conversion. That's a legal term for he stole it and sold it. But I also want you to go to the police station this afternoon and file a formal report for the damage to the trim. In this state, damaging property over a certain dollar amount isn't just a civil issue, it's criminal mischief. I will, Your Honor, she says. My son is waiting outside. He's going to help me. Good. Tell your son to take photos of every single drip of paint on those floors. Tell him to get a professional estimate for the restoration of the wood. Don't let a general contractor do it. You need a restoration specialist. And when you get that estimate, if it's over $5,000, which it will be, you go to the higher court. You don't let him get away with a single penny of this. I look at the clock. I've spent more time on this case than I usually do, but some cases require a little extra instruction. Bird, I yell. Bird sticks his head back in the door. Yes, Judge? Did you get the keys to the storage unit? I did. And the keys to the Range Rover. He's sitting in the holding area with the officers now. He's suddenly being very cooperative about the location of the appliances. Funny how a pair of handcuffs acts as a memory aid, isn't it? I say, a dry smile touching my lips. Make sure the officers take a statement regarding where he sold that stove. If he sold it to a pawn shop or a used appliance dealer, they might be able to recover it. On it, Judge, I turn back to the gallery. There are a few people in the front row who look like they've just witnessed a car crash. I don't blame them. Marcus Stone is a car crash in a three-piece suit. You know, I say, addressing the room, but looking at the camera, we live in an age where people think that if they have a social media page and a fancy title, the rules don't apply to them. They think that branding is a substitute for being. Mr. Stone didn't see a house. He saw a backdrop for his ego. He didn't see a landlord, he saw a target. But the law doesn't care about your vision. The law cares about contracts, property rights, and the truth. I look at the file one last time. There's a small note at the bottom of Mrs. Thorne's evidence list, a copy of a text message Stone sent her last week. It says, "You're lucky I'm even giving you the time of day. Most people would pay for the consultation I'm giving you for free." I let out a short, sharp laugh. The time of day? Sir, the only thing you're giving anyone is a headache. Mrs. Thorne, you aren't lucky he gave you the time of day. You're lucky he was too arrogant to realize that he was walking into a courtroom where I don't give a hoot about his vibrations or his slate-toned washes. I care that he robbed you. I pick up my pen and sign the final judgment papers with a flourish. I'm also going to order that Mr. Stone's counterclaim for design fees be recorded as a frivolous filing, I add. That means if he ever tries to sue anyone else for this nonsense, the court will see that he's already been flagged as a dreamer who uses the legal system to harass his victims. Mrs. Thorne stands up. She looks lighter now. The burden of being gaslit, a term I don't like, but one that certainly fits here, is gone. She knows she's not crazy. She knows she was right. Thank you, Judge Judy, she says. Truly, I was starting to think I was just being an old-fashioned woman who didn't understand the modern world. There is no modern world that excuses theft and vandalism, madam, I say firmly. There is only the right way and the wrong way. You've lived long enough to know the difference. Don't ever let a man with a gold watch and no job tell you otherwise. I watch her walk out of the courtroom, her head held high. She's going to get her refrigerator back. She's going to get her chandelier back, and with any luck, the state of New York is going to give Mr. Stone a very small, very gray room to live in for a while, one where he won't be allowed to paint the walls. I sit back, taking a sip of my water. My heart is still beating a bit fast. It riles me up, seeing a man like that. It riles me up because I know for every Marcus Stone I catch, there are 10 more out there ruining the lives of people who don't have the strength to fight back. Bird. I bark, ready for the next one. Yes, Judge? Next case. And tell the next person that if they roll their eyes at me, they better be prepared to find them on the floor. Bird grins. He knows I'm in a mood now. And when I'm in a mood, justice gets done very, very quickly. I look down at the next file. It's a dispute over a stolen dog that turns out to be a borrowed dog that was actually a gift dog. Oh, brother, here we go again. The nonsense never takes a lunch break, so neither do I. Call the parties. I command, the doors open, and the next set of litigants walks in. They look nervous. They should be, because I'm still thinking about that gray paint on the mahogany, and I'm not in the mood for any more visions. I square my shoulders, adjust my lace collar, and wait. The bench is high for a reason, so I can see over the lies and get straight to the heart of the matter. And today, the heart of the matter is that Marcus Stone picked the wrong day to be the smartest guy in the room. Bird, have they been sworn? Yes, Judge. Good. Let's get to work.